Good morning and welcome all to our regularly scheduled meeting of the Oxbridge Building Committee. We're missing from our committee today Diane and Nick and Sean. But otherwise, we have a quorum and we're ready to go. The first order of business is a review of the minutes from our July 15th meeting. You've had a copy of that. There was a typo in there, which David picked up, that the contract with ONGAP is not a GNP contract, it's a GMP contract. That will be corrected. Other than that, are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Hearing none, may I have a motion to accept the minutes as corrected? Anyone?
Sure.
Rusty?
I'll second.
Do I have a second? Second from
Duke.
Is it Randy?
I'll second that, Duke.
Duke, okay. Okay, all in favor, just say aye or raise your hand. Any noes? Any noes? Any abstentions? Motion carried. The next order of business is our usual discussion of the application and certificate of payment. In this case, it's number 7, and the amount that you have in front of you, sorry, I just lost is $1,655,001.88. David, George, do you have any comments about this particular application, or is it just pretty much standard?
It's pretty much standard. You know, the majority of the work obviously was the the summer, the parking lot work and all that. We did erect part A, so that was Schenectady, and then Capasso finished up foundations and walls on part A as well. And then pretty much the rest is just the basic stuff. We did spray fireproof the lower level of B and C, and we've been doing hangers and actually started hanging ductwork and all that, and then working on exterior drywall.
Are there any questions from the committee concerning the payment application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve this payment application.
So moved.
Rusty moves. Do I have a second?
I will second
Duke
that.
has a second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye or raising your hand. Are there any nays or abstentions? Hearing none, the motion is carried. I did include in the package for everybody a summary of all the pay applications through payment number 6, which was last month, by trade contractor, and you can look at that at your leisure. But you can see that until this payment will be made, we've paid out $10.7 million to the contractors, and we have retained about almost $750,000 in our retainage. And of course, with this application, we'll be up over that number by quite a bit. Just for your information purposes, to see how much we've spent so far. I know this has been a very busy month because July was, and so is right now, August. They're trying to get things ready for school. With that in mind, let's talk about the progress report for July, and then anything that was important that happened here in the month of August so far. I'll turn that over to George and David.
Month of July, still projecting the completion date. The academic wing, April next year. Then the percentages with the site work, and then the budget. I did kind of update gone through the reports and we had a couple potential change orders and all that, and doing all that update. We did spend some allowance funds. So currently we got the CMR allowances at about 150,000, and then our contingency is like 1,278,974. The majority, the difference between last month and this month, we talked a little bit last month about the the revisions made up on the power, the water, and all of that. So that's the majority of the difference between last month and this month on the contingency. So those are potential changes. We're still going back and forth with our review on those two changes, but I did capture that in the report. And that's just the
George or David, all of those utility issues that are spoken to in your report, which you're about to put up, they've all been resolved by this time, as I understand it. But they clearly created a compression of time to get the job done because school is going to be opening very shortly. How confident are you that things will be ready, including the parking lot, for when the school begins?
Yeah, we're very, very confident. It'll be ready. You said, Kip, it did. A lot of the revisions did push, compress, and we had them working 10-hour days and Saturdays. So currently, all the utilities are in, including the propane tank. Right now, they're prepping the subgrade. Tomorrow, they should start doing the fine grading. So probably tomorrow, Saturday, start doing the fine grading, and then right now the paving of the binder course will just be the binder course. Won't have the finished course. Obviously, paving of the binder course is scheduled for Monday, Tuesday next week, which is 16th and 17th, and then we'll be putting in the barriers for the walkway for the students drop off, and doing some line striping. We have a couple of the light pole bases, those solar light pole bases to go in. So yeah, the schedule right now is to finish everything up next week. With the new teachers coming in the 23rd, 24th, and then the full staff on the 25th. We're right on track with that.
Well, that's quite an accomplishment, frankly, given where we started. On the issue of allowances, I was a little confused in the detail of the report, because if I saw it correctly, and I'm not sure what page it's on, George, it talked about using up or potentially using up, is it $330,000 in allowances, which is, I think it's greater than we started in our original number. Is that right? Yeah, there we are. So is that 330 more than we had in our original contract for allowances?
Page maybe. Right there. Yeah. So on the screen there, Kip, see we started with 310,000
Right.
in allowances held at the GM level.
Yeah. There's
150.
150 kind of remaining.
The other log that you see that's included in the report are the trade contractor allowances. That's the 300 and some odd thousand.
Right. Well, I thought allowances were all to do with the trade contractors.
Some of them are held with the trades that we write into their contracts, but the other ones then there are the handfuls that are held at our main contract level with the town of Darien that have not been assigned to a given trade contractor yet. Those are treated the exact same way as, say, our GMP contingency. It really doesn't even belong to us at this point. It's a pool of money that's set aside in the contract where changes are funded from it if they're deemed to be within the scope of getting the project done, but not something that was originally done.
The difference is, Kip, these trade contract allowances, those are actually in the GM. Well, they're in the trade contractor's contract, so they're not going to, they don't impact the GMP at all. Those are in like the base bid. So you don't see them on the cost control report because they're in like trade contractors allowance, the trade contractors line item as part of their base contract. That's kind of like the difference. And then the trade contractor allowance log, that's just kind of like a reporting. So in other words, like the site contractor has allowances, and that's part of his original. That's part of his original contract amount, his allowances, as opposed to these are the GMP allowances that are shown are part of the GMP, which kind of falls under the GMP. So that's kind of the difference. So what you see on that trader report is if you added up all the trade contractors' allowances in the base bid, if you will, then that's what you see on that trade allowance report. And then the trade allowance is just kind of like it's just a way to report it, know the status.
Kip, Nick and I actually asked for that report. We just wanted to keep an eye on those trade allowances in the GMP.
Well, and what happens there too is what it's showing is the way we report on it is the original amount is what you see as that negative dollar. So where Georgia zoomed in, right, for the, looks like one of the electric companies, the initial allowance was $20,000, and then there were 2 revisions that we have funded from that. So the amount that would, because if nothing else changed with the allowances, we would return $12,978 of that one allowance that's on the screen there. But as we go through the project, if there are things that allowance has to be used for, that remaining balance will go down. Whatever is left will get credited to you at the end of the project.
Okay. Well, look, I don't want to hold the committee up on this right now, but I could use a very simple, if you will, diagram that explains this in clearer to me so that I can report back to the town and the Board of Finance and other people, here's what actually is going on. Because the question will always come, are we on budget? Are we over budget? Are we under budget? What's our potential? And I know you guys are trying to quantify that as well, but I'm getting a little bit lost because we talked about allowances at the last meeting, and I don't want to go into the nitty-gritty detail right here, but maybe a simple block diagram would help understand what we're talking about here. What you're saying is that these are part of the allowances in this one sheeter are just those that the original trade contractor, when he made his bid, he included some allowances in his particular bid. And that's what this form is talking about. But we also had $310,000 of allowances that we put in the overall contract to cover various possibilities, correct?
That's correct.
Yep.
Okay. And I'm sorry if I'm a little bit thick on this, but if I can't understand it simply, I can't explain it simply, and people wonder what's going on. That's all. So we'll get a block diagram on this.
Yeah, we can do a discussion and get you the information you need so you can relay that to the selectmen.
Right. I can't relay information that I don't understand. Or else I'd be a politician. Sorry. Yeah,
Watch it, Duke is on this meeting.
I'm sorry.
I said,
was that?
watch what you say, Duke is on this meeting.
Oh, that's right. Well, what can I say? So I didn't mean to interrupt the discussion. Is there anything else you want to tell us about in terms of our progress and where we're going here? It sounds like we're going to be okay for opening of school, which is actually for the teachers coming back, which is great.
Yep, that's good.
Hey, Kip, last week we were on site, Rusty and I and Alan, Nick, and I walked the site. I walked the ramp and the bulkhead up to the school and the entrance, and looked in pretty, said it needed around a couple of those with a handful of everyone's been communicating and working together, but what was being set up there for the entrance and the bulkhead looks good.
Good to hear. Anything else you want to add to this, David and George, on the progress report? I know it's looking a month back, but we're still talking about what's going on today.
And just, the primary electric feed, that's been completed. The power got turned back on to the existing school last week. Same with the water mains. We finished up all the tie-ins, earlier this week. Actually, it was Saturday. And then scheduling the the flushing and the pressure testing of the water mains, early next week. Sanitary sewer lines, that has all been complete, as well. So, and then right now I am trying to schedule, Cameron, the force main, next week. See if we can get that kind of wrapped up by next week.
And we've got that firm to do it for us, the one that can put a camera through a 4-inch main. That's
correct, Highland, yes. So
Highland.
I'm pushing for next week because there'll be, we'll have a few staff, custodians and stuff in, but there won't be the teachers. So we're gonna have that done next week. And there's just a few people in the pool.
Okay.
There's, been about 10 RFIs issued this month. Nothing, no really outstanding ones, no new PRs or ASIs. We did have 3 PCOs, which I have gotten, comments back from SLAM on the first 2, and forward them to the trades for their comments. Schedule activity revisions for July, really nothing major. We did have maybe last week, there was the delivery of the roof insulation, or I guess delayed, if you will, 3-4 weeks, not until the middle of September, but we're kind of working through that right now as far as, what options we have, trying to, workarounds or all that. So that just kind of came up like middle of last week or so. So we're still kind of putting together some sort of workaround or other options we might have. The rest of the material, air handling units, that's still on board, or the curbs rather, on board for the first September. Electrical gear, actually that's been pushed a little bit up to like the end of September, we've been told. Propane tank, that's been shipped and is in the ground right now. Storefronts being fabricated, hollow metal door frames. They're at Builders Hardware, and right now they're putting them together, and we should see our first delivery the end of this month. I think it's actually the 1st of September. Flooring still on for the end of September for delivered to their warehouse. And then just the summary, we kind of talked upon it, site works continuing with the parking lot and that work. like I said, by the end of next week, most of that should be done. You know, we might have, you know, the week of the 23rd, have some of the fencing and that kind of stuff to be done, but you know, like I said, the parking lot, the striping and all of that should be complete the end of next week, and you know, the temp fence, putting all that back up, you know, might run into the following week. And then the academic wing kind of touched upon it. We've been, you know, that's all been sprayed fireproof down below. Been putting up hangers. We did get a B ductwork came in last week, and this early middle of next week we should see C, the ductwork on C, and have that, you know, continue. They've been interior framing also in the part C. Then they're also part B and C. They're, you know, just doing some of the exterior framing and sheathing as well. And actually, this week we started the AVB on part C. Then A, all the walls and foundations are complete. They're wrapping up the structural steel. By the end of the week, we should have all the structural steel detailed and done. And then they continue back on the foundations. And actually, next week we're going to start the lower slab on grade in A. I'll talk about the PCOs under review. I have currently three under review.
Ready?
No action today, but the three I got comments back from Slam, and I'm just waiting for the trades to respond. Schedule wise, like I said, we're still kind of on track. This schedule doesn't really show any of the impacts of the roofing. We just, like I said, kind of found that out, you know, last week. So we're working out. We're going to be because we did get the camera. The camera's up and running now, so you know, that can be looked at. And then you know, these are just the pictures. So that's them starting the sheathing. We'll finish up placing the walls. That's all I have. If anybody has any questions.
Any building committee members who are going to visit the site, do not get your car washed ahead of time. Someone did.
Yeah, me too.
George and Dave, I have just a couple of quick questions. One, I was wondering if it might be possible to schedule a tour for committee members who haven't been on site. I'm just thinking that it would be nice for the committee to be able to see firsthand the progress ahead of everyone returning to school. Just, you know, if any questions come up to anyone runs into anyone in the grocery store, that we feel like, you know, we've seen it as well before all the parents return. And then secondly, and please let us know what's convenient for you. If it's at the end of the workday, when the workers have left, but before you've gone home, I hate to make anyone make an extra trip or to be in the way. And then my second question was just also thinking about parent updates coming back to school. Luke usually sends a, it used to be called the summer mailing. It's all digital now, but it has all the information about what you need to know to start at Oxbridge. And then the PTO also kicks off its newsletters. So I'd love to be able to put a little blurb in as an update, but seeing as how so much has happened, I wondered if I might impose on Dave and or George to just give a few bullet points about kind of where we ended the school year and what has happened. It definitely doesn't need to be fancy. It can be very high level in layman terms, just so that the average parent can kind of say like, wow, this is what they got done. And then I'm happy to turn it into a write-up for the newsletter.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. I mean, the committee members who did last week, or even if, wanted to come, any time, we are paving the 16th and 17th. So if you want to schedule something after the paving or before that, either one.
I recommend that you do it after the paving, only because it's going to be more convenient, I think, for people to get there.
Right.
Okay, so would so
something is going to
towards
become
the end of that week?
publication.
Wait a minute,
Sorry, go ahead.
say, David, you were speaking?
No, I was going to say, if something was going to be part of a publication too, I would say if you were to document the way it looks right now, I think the casual observer would look at it and say, there's no way that students are coming into this building. So I think, the longer we can wait for that publication of what things look like, I think the better off, because it'll, with each day, it'll look more and more finished, and it will, despite the fact that we're confident that we're going to be ready, I'm sure to the observer, what it looks like out there right now does not lend itself to looking like that.
Oh, sure, Dave. And just to clarify, that wouldn't be going out until the week right before students came back. So when teachers would already be back. It's usually so the students return on the 30th. So it would probably be the week before. And if we needed to hold it until the week that kids are back, that's fine too.
Hey, we talked last week when we were on site with Dr. Allen. Got to think overall, and we can take it over offline about communication. We even talked about aerial view of the parking and the bus loop. I think George brought up a great idea of bringing a bus in to see how it's going to work. So a lot about, and we can take it offline. But I think we can, we can't over in terms of we need kids on patience around parking, we need police, but maybe side conversation district level with Luke to talk about some of that. But all good points.
Okay, that sounds great. So if George and Dave could just help us with some of those bullet points in layman's terms, then we can collaborate together in terms of what we want to put out and say.
Yeah, perfect.
It sounds to me like the best week or the best period to have if you will, a short tour of the site and facility would be the week of the 23rd of August, which is a week before the children arrive. The teachers are back, but so I'm going to just suggest that George and Dave think about a time that week that might be good for everybody. It'll be convenient, and then those of the committee that are available to make that tour, and the parking lot will be completed by then, so it'll be a little less dusty.
Right. Probably wash the car before if you want.
On your dime, George.
If we scheduled that walkthrough the week of the 23rd, early that week, and then Katie, if you wanted to even, based on what you see out here, maybe that would prompt some questions for those bullet points that we can answer for you to get into that mailing. Would that work as a dual purpose?
That would be fantastic. I will just let you know that I'm going out of town on the 24th. So if it was possible to do it on the 23rd, I could be available anytime that day.
Does that work?
Sounds like a date. 23rd it is. Okay.
Great.
Thanks, Katie. That's helpful.
Thank you all.
Hey, we'll just pick a time afterward, we'll send something out, or do we want to talk about that?
No, you pick a time, and
Yeah.
it'll be up to us to be there.
Yeah, your convenience, Dave. Thank you.
It's not my convenience. These guys are actually the ones doing something out here, so I'm gonna defer to George.
That was
Include me. Can you include me on that communication, Dave, in case I can join?
Yeah, maybe mid-morning, like 9 or something like that.
9 o'clock?
Yeah.
Wow, George. 9 is mid-morning for you guys. That's impressive.
Trustee said,
What are
All right.
Hey, Kip.
Yes.
Randy, that's a quick question just to George and Dave in particular. How's the site drainage coming along in general with all the heavy rains we've seen this summer? I know that the permanent installations are not complete, but particularly in the western side of the academic wing, have we experienced any significant kind of ponding or anything like that that you can foresee being a long-term issue, or is everything flowing pretty good?
It's obviously we had some kinds of washouts, during the big storm, but the things right now, they're not, the grades aren't, final or whatever, but we haven't had it, we are getting some, down that lower area, I think is where you're describing is, it's wet there and we do get water coming down, but that's, mainly because, we're not that far along enough as far as, shedding all the water out. I mean, we do shed it out and it does, we haven't had any major issues with any roads or anything. And I don't anticipate, the final grades or anything having any issues with ponding or anything like that. So I think things seem to be working as they should.
Okay. Thanks, George.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is at the last meeting, we talked about the ombre pattern on the gymnasium and cafeteria wall. And we took a poll of the committee, and it was a poll of 8-1 that said we would like to not use the ombre pattern, but find another approach to softening up the wall from its monolithic approach. I've turned that over to Amy, and Amy has given us a contract. We've authorized her to go ahead and start some design work. Any comments from you, Amy, on this right now?
Sure, I can just let you know that we have a couple of options in the works, and we'll send them over probably beginning of next week. They're relative to matching some of the brick protrusions that you see on the other parts of the building, where there's every 3 or 4 feet, there's one row of bricks that is in or out at a different depth than the rest of the facade. So that's one of them, and others. So I think the others are kind of false windows in a recessed brick pattern, that kind of thing.
Great. So you think about sometime next week you'll be sending those out?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, great.
And Amy, those options, they're being cognizant of the gray brick that we already have in hand, correct?
So I was under the impression, but correct me if I'm wrong, that the gray brick for this portion of the building, phase 2 construction, has not yet been acquired, or is that?
I forgot what there was a quantity of the gray brick that has not yet been committed, and I didn't think it was. I thought it was. We have more committed than we need for phase 1. So there is some of the quantity for phase 2 that is.
No, David, the numbers that I remember were that 40,000 gray bricks had been produced and were now, owned by the trade contractor. You need 43,000 bricks for the academic wing of the gray. So we don't even have enough gray at the $40,000 at the 40,000 unit level to cover the need for the academic wing, and so that we were still deficient for what we need at the academic wing, no matter whether and that's what I was left with the impression of.
Yeah, you're right. I do remember something like, there were 15,000 gray bricks that were yet to be committed. So
correct, 55,000 bricks
on the phase 2 building. Then we're okay.
Okay.
That's my memory too.
Okay.
If something changes or if O&G has different information and has a surplus of gray that you'd like us to find use for, we can look into putting them in the brick recesses that I was just mentioning. But as of right now, we're not using any of that at all in the options that we're coming up with.
Okay. Very good. Are there any other matters to be discussed today?
I just want to reiterate what George has already touched on, and that is the roof insulation. As he mentioned, we have an issue with supply right now. We don't know what the effect might be on the schedule, but they're looking at it as we speak, and hopefully soon we'll have a good idea of what we're going to be doing with that.
Okay, so Rusty, the point here is that roof insulation has to go on very soon, which is sort of, I guess, critical to then doing the work inside the building. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's all the electrical, mechanical stuff that needs the roof on top. That's why it is critical that we get a resolution to this as soon as we can.
All right. Anything else to be discussed? Is there any public comment? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. No one wants to adjourn? Oh, Duke wants to adjourn. Thank you. Is there a
I'll second.
Motion.
Right. All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much, and have the rest of the summer, which remains. Hope it will be fun. Thank you.
Right, thanks.
Thanks, Cap.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Stop the recording. Terrific.